Welcome to Focus Stack, the podcast where we layer conversations on creativity and photography. I'm your host, photographer and educator Jim Reiman, and in each episode, I'll be sitting down with different photographers to learn about the stories, techniques, and inspiration behind their work. From creative breakthroughs to industry challenges, we go beyond the frame to uncover what shapes a photographer's vision. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the first episode of the Focus Stacked podcast. I'm really excited to launch this little project to help people get to know photographers and their work. And just thanks for stopping by and checking this out. Just a couple things. If you would like to follow the show, we do have an account on Instagram that I'll be posting little previews from each episode and just kind of keeping people up to date when new episodes launch. And also, if you would like to follow us on YouTube, you can like and subscribe there, hit the little bell so you know when new episodes come up. The goal is to eventually start live streaming these episodes. So please, stay tuned for that. Also, if you go to the link tree, if you're a photographer and you want to be a guest on the show, go to the link in the description on both YouTube and on Instagram, and you can sign up to be a photographer. Other than that, we do have other ways that if you'd like to show support for the show, there is a Patreon. We do have some merch. But yeah, just, if that's something you're interested in, that is there for you in the description. So with all of that out of the way, I'd like to introduce you to the first guest on this first episode. Her name is Jen Magnuson, and she is a pro sports photographer who documents endurance races. Her clients include REI, Bicycling Magazine, the National Forest Foundation, and the U.S. Department of Labor. She is also the co-president of ASMP Colorado. So with that, let's welcome our first guest to the show, Jen Magnuson. Hey.
Yeah. Hi, Jim.
Welcome.
Yeah,
How
thanks
you
for having
doing?
me on. Good.
Of course. How's it down in Maine Coast right now?
It's shaping up to be a lovely bluebird Colorado day and
Oh,
a little
nice.
too springy for February, but we'll take it.
Yeah, it's sunny here, but it's like in the 30s. So
Well, we're
yeah.
gonna be close to the 60s today, I think. So
Oh wow.
if only
Okay.
it wasn't muddy, it'd be a good mountain biking day.
Yeah. We got about a foot and a half of snow last week, and it's turning
Same.
into mud in the driveway and everything. So
Yep, that's similar situation here.
all right. Well, Jen, we're here to talk about photography. So talk to me a little bit about your path to becoming a photographer. How did you get from where you started to where you are now?
I actually picked up a camera when I was a little kid and would sneak into the drawer where my parents kept their little point and shoot film cameras, and I would use up all their film, and then they'd go to use their cameras. And what happened to all the film? Random pictures of, whatever stuff in the
Oh,
yard and things.
nice.
So
What was your first camera?
I actually still have it. It's in the other room, but it was a white Click 110 film camera
Oh,
that I
nice.
got for $11 when I was in fifth grade, and it was for sale at the drugstore. And my mom bought it for me because she was tired of me using up all of her film and stealing her camera. And I thought it was super fancy because it had a built-in flash. So the cameras that my parents had, my dad's Kodak Instamatic, it was like a little rectangle. You had to
Mm-hmm.
have a flash stick on it.
Mm-hmm.
And then my mom's was like an X15 Kodak Instamatic that had 126 film, and you had to have a flash cube on the top of it. But mine
Oh,
mine took batteries and had its own built-in flash, so it was so fancy.
nice. Mine was a neon green little 110 camera. I've been trying to find it. I look on eBay every now and then. Haven't been able to find the
Oh.
exact one. But yeah, my mom gave it to me for a school field trip to Seattle one day. So
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, I kept mine, and then in thrift shops and stuff, I've managed to
Mhm.
find the same one that my dad had and the same one that my mom had. So I have the whole collection of my beginning
Oh,
cameras.
that's really cool. Sorry to
Yeah.
interrupt with a question about the camera. So
No,
you
that's
were
that's
stealing
all
their
right.
film, you're taking pictures.
Yeah, and I actually used to climb out the we had a skylight in the bathroom that my sister and I shared on the second floor of the house, and I would climb out the skylight and sit on the peak of the roof so that I could get an unobstructed view of the sunset. My mom was always
Oh.
like, "How'd you get these beautiful sunset pictures?" I'm like, "I just like pointed the camera at the sky."
Nice.
Um, but yeah, I took a film photo class in high school that taught me how to use a manual 35 millimeter camera, um, and learned to develop black and white prints. We had a black and white dark room in the at the high school, and that was where I really got interested in it. But didn't think of it as a profession until after I was unexpectedly retired from my police career and had lost a job, and I was still kind of a hobby photographer. I'd gotten a Nikon digital SLR and a few years before that, and it was fun, and I took it lots of places and shot a bunch of random stuff, and um, ended up ended up without a job. And my now husband was like, "What would you do if you could do anything?" And I said I would be a photographer, and he said, "Well, figure out what you need to do that and just do it." So I went to school for it, just got an undergraduate certificate from the Center for Digital Imaging Arts at Boston University, their DC campus when we lived in DC, and took it from there.
So I don't know if I realized that you were in law enforcement previously. So,
Yeah.
like, did any of the things from that experience, does it like factor into how you approach photography now? Is there any skills that transferred?
Definitely interpersonal skills
Okay.
in terms
Yeah.
of like, I mean, you do a lot of negotiating as a police
Mhm.
officer, just trying
Okay.
to,
And as a photographer?
and as a photographer, more informs the business side. But also just being able to talk to anybody is a good skill to have.
Yeah. Okay. Well, would you like to dive into your portfolio and we can start looking at some of the work that you've made?
Sure, I
Okay.
probably should have updated it.
Oh, you're fine. All right, so we're gonna go to Jen's website. So if you're at home and you're watching this, you want to check out Jen's work, please go to jenmagnusonphoto.com and let's jump over here. All right.
Cool.
So
It
talk to me about the
pops right
type of
up.
yeah, let's talk about the type of work you're doing right now. I know you're doing a lot of like cycling stuff, but maybe you could walk us through the types of things you're excited about doing right now.
Yeah. So I do a lot of ultra
Mhm.
cycling photos. I got hooked up with the folks at Race Across America back when I volunteered at their finish line
Mhm.
in Annapolis, Maryland, when I lived on the East Coast. And I wasn't doing photo stuff then. I was just volunteering at the finish line for whatever they needed. As an endurance athlete myself, I do Ironmans. I was interested in, supporting other endurance athletes. And so when I moved to Colorado, they hired me to cover the finish line of Race Across the West, which is actually right next door in Durango. And after that, I guess they liked my work enough that I was able to go on the road with them. And so now I cover a lot of their other races as well as going
Mhm.
across the country every year with Race Across America. So you'll
Mm.
see some of those cycling photos there from the course. But I've also done work for like a backpacking food company. You can see some of those images with the folks eating and cooking and doing such things out
These ones here.
camping. Yeah, some of that. And yeah, if you go to that portfolio and then camping and backpacking, there's some
This
there.
one right here. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, nice. So yeah, talk to me about what it takes to do a shoot like this. Like, how does this usually get set up, and like, do you get to go camping while you're doing it, or is it more just like
Sometimes,
sometimes? Okay,
sometimes, some of those are just setups. Honestly, there are a couple, and you probably could not guess which ones that are shot at Utah rest stops.
Utah rest stops.
Yes.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. There's some really scenic rest stops in Utah, and I had actually I had needed to get some work to the Next Mile Meals folks, and
And that's
the
this brand.
weather in Colorado had just not cooperated. And that one was shot on a real camping trip where we actually
Okay.
got to camp for real, and we ate the food after we were done with the shoot.
Oh, nice. Okay,
um,
that's
but yeah,
perks
the
of.
Utah rest stop thing, they hadn't, like, the weather in Colorado had just been really stormy, and so every time I had a plan to go out and get stuff, it got rained out. And so I ended up on the road, and I'm like, well, I'm going to bring all the stuff I need to shoot this. And we found a
Mhm,
gorgeous rest stop, a couple of different ones,
mhm,
and just threw stuff out of the car and
mhm.
set up and shot it. And they ended up being some of their favorite photos that they got.
Oh, nice. Cool. So these are all just is this mostly just for this brand here? The was it Next Mile Meals?
Next Mile Meals, yeah.
Yeah.
Their whole thing was like keto backpacking meals.
Okay.
That is one of the Utah rest stops.
Oh, nice. You never know.
Yeah, so if you're ever in Utah, make sure to stop at the rest stops.
I have stopped at some, and they are really nice, and they're like on the border of Colorado and Utah.
Yeah, yeah, that's where
Yeah,
these are, some of them.
cool. So I kind of want to go back to. Can we go to the cycling and talk about that? Because I'm really curious about just
Absolutely.
the whole process of this. So this is a race from where to where? It's like they have races all over the country, but like what are the links usually?
Um, the big one that they do is Race Across America, and that one goes from Oceanside, California. It used to finish in Annapolis, Maryland, but they've had to change the course to finish in, as of last year, Atlantic City, New Jersey. And
Mm,
it's a nonstop, like, not a stage race like the Tour de France. It's 3,000 miles in one shot from coast to coast. So once the clock starts, it doesn't stop. The racers have support crews, and they manage their sleep schedule and getting them fed. But they have a solos have a 12-day time limit, so it is pure endurance and sleep
oh, wow.
deprivation and all the weather that can happen in June between the two
Cal
coasts.
yeah, California to New Jersey. So
Yep,
like 3,000 miles ish. I don't know. I have
a
no
little
idea.
over a
A
little
little
over
over.
3,000 miles. Yeah, and
Okay.
they climb the Rockies. They come right through my little town here in Southwest
Mhm.
Colorado, through Durango. They climb Wolf Creek Pass in Pagosa Springs, and then they just to just to twist the knife a little bit, they climb the Appalachians, which are super steep and unrelenting.
Really? I
Hmm.
always thought of those as the smaller mountains compared to the Rockies. So I
They are
didn't really.
smaller, but the
Uh-huh.
grades are absolutely the most intense
Wow,
part of
okay.
the race.
That's cool. I mean, that's interesting. I didn't know that. I would have guessed it would be harder on the Rockies.
Yeah, the Rockies are they have more switchbacks, so they're a little
Okay.
bit more mellow in grade, but when they hit those Appalachians, you're looking at sometimes 15-20% grade for a
Hmm.
few miles at a time, and you've already got more than 2,000 miles on your legs. It's
Hmm.
it's intense. And
Yeah.
teams do it as well, so they can relay with 2, 4, or 8 people, but the teams have a 9-day time limit because they have
Hmm.
a little less sleep deprivation. They still got to
So
make
at
it hard.
So as the photographer for this, like what is your entire time like on one of these races?
It's also pretty intense. For one thing, it's it's a long day. Um, we're we're at the mercy of where the race is.
Mhm.
So it's a wake up before dawn, take a look at where there's each team and each rider is GPS tracked, and there's a site that you can follow along. And so we have an admin link for that where we can see where we are in relation to them.
Mhm.
So we have to decide, like, are we going forward or back on the course? Who's close to us? What makes the most sense in terms of race coverage? Because we're also not just getting photos and video, but we're writing updates on the race's social media pages and almost doing like a media coverage type thing rather
Mhm.
than just photographing it. But also, I know that the work that I'm creating is going to be used in their marketing, and it's going to be for sale to the participants. So I have to
Mhm.
think about like all these different purposes as I'm making something, and then we go where it makes the most sense to go, and we catch what we can, and we're at the mercy of the weather too, the light. Like
Mhm.
this is Monument Valley, right? The shot you have up, and
Mhm.
that is typically not a place where they get a ton of rain or anything. It's very dry. It's desert. It's on the border of Utah and Arizona. It's about 2 hours from where I live. And it is this particular year, I think it was 2019, um, we got storms, and it created some of the coolest things.
Oh
So
wow.
sometimes you get magic like that, and then sometimes you get like the harshest, worst light. And then sometimes you're in this beautiful spot where you've got like golden hour, crazy, awesome sunset, something going on. And
Mhm.
then there's not a bike for 100 miles.
Oh yeah.
So you're just like, okay, I got to get stuff where I can. But it
So
really is.
are you trying to like get ahead of the bikers in some cases? Like, could you take like other roads and then kind of like try
Oh, yeah.
to?
We'll take Google Maps and be like, well, there's nobody near us. And the, the race runs on all back roads. It's not on any interstates or
Mhm.
anything. So we'll Google Map to like the next time station, and they have time stations where they check in. And so we'll be like, that was after the storm hit in
Mm.
Monument Valley.
Yeah, I
So
can
the
see
one
the
that was
rain.
chasing the other rider. Yeah, I added actually a little bit of flash to that from,
Yeah, I was gonna say it looks like there's a little pop happening there to put in some
yeah.
fill. Nice.
Yeah, and so I could catch the raindrops. I wanted to
Mhm.
like give it a little drama.
Yeah, no, that's great. Do
But
you
it's
use
a
a
fast
is
setup.
it how often are you using lighting on in a shoot like this? Do you have the time to do it very often or just when you think it's
Sometimes
necessary?
I try to make the time to do it. Um, I'm actually really excited about this year's race because I have new strobes
Oh,
that
nice.
are battery powered, and like got a they have a little heavier wattage than the speed lights that I would typically set up on the side of the road. But I've done things like clamping 5 speed lights
Oh.
to a tripod and
Oh,
aiming.
really? Just a line of speed lights.
Yeah, just a line of speed lights, and they're all like pocket wizards. And
Mhm.
this guy, I waited on that's San Francisco Peaks in Flagstaff,
Oh.
and I waited on the side of the road for probably 2 hours for this because that was 2019 also, and typically there's not still snow on the mountains there in June.
Mm.
But this year I was like, okay, I've got to wait for that shot.
Now, do you get to know the bicyclists? I feel like when we've talked in the past, you've kind of formed relationships, like through friendships and stuff with some of
Oh
them.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. A lot of them end up end up doing a lot of the races. They'll come out and do like the 500 miler in Texas or the 508 that's in, well, it was in Nevada, now it's in being moved to California. But so I'll see some of these people multiple times a year, and they buy photos and
Mhm.
they're always excited. And uh, we when we follow them across the country, we're interviewing them, we're riding beside their vehicle with the van door open and chatting with them, and so we get to know them.
Oh, that's cool. Of the any of the images here, are there any that you want to stop? And I don't know if there's any like particular stories or anything of interest that it might be fun to share with everyone.
Um, like stories of what was happening, or
Yeah,
stories
just
of
just kind
like,
of like just like take us to the moment when you were able to capture one of these images.
okay, yeah, there are a couple. Um, there's actually kind of a pair right here.
Which ones?
The the one of the racer in the bright colors that's riding through that ribbon of road, that one.
This one?
And then, yeah, that one, we waited on the side of the road for a couple hours for this one too. Um, and both directions on this is in eastern Colorado, kind of beyond the Rockies in the plains, where we're starting to head towards the border of Kansas and Colorado. And uh, both directions looked amazing. So the storm had already kind of was moving east, and there was this mist and steam coming up off the road and everything going in the
Mm.
facing west. This is facing east. And so I stood there on the side of the road as we were waiting for this team to get there, and there's no signal, so we can't track them on the website. So we know we passed them, and we're like, all right, let's just wait. And so I stood there practicing I had my camera on a monopod with I think a 70 to 200 and possibly a teleconverter on it. And I was like, okay, metering for the west facing shot, and then how many clicks do I have to use to change my shutter speed to get to get the right exposure? And I was just going to pivot, and as I did it, I was going to change my settings and try to hit both, and I nailed both. So this was the east facing shot where the rider's riding towards the storm that had already come through. And then if you go a couple shots over, I'll tell you when to stop.
Am I going the right
Maybe more than a
direction?
couple. Yes, I think so. Ah, this one is the west facing
Oops. Oh
direction. Oh,
no. I'm sorry about
oh
that. Let me just go out and go straight to it's
no.
this
Oh,
shot.
yeah, yep, that one.
There we go.
So that's with the mist coming, or the
Oh
steam coming
yeah.
up off the road post storm, and the rider
Nice.
coming towards me. So I
So
metered for
this
that
you had to switch from this to the previous shot we just looked at as they went
in the
past you.
space of like a couple of seconds as he rode by.
You mentioned that there was no like service and does that happen a lot where you get into areas where there's just no signal whatsoever?
Yeah. And sometimes it doesn't work out. Sometimes we pass them and we're like, okay, we're going to wait. We're going to wait. And then we either lose light, it gets dark out, or they go for a sleep break, because we never
Mm.
know when they're
Oh,
gonna when they're
they could
gonna
just
take
do that
a nap. Yeah,
and
they
when
could do
they
that at any time.
they
So
just like
we're
pull
like,
over and take a nap on the side of the road?
yeah, sometimes
Yeah.
they're actually literally laying on the ground
Huh.
on like a camping mat under a
Okay.
bridge with their support crew vehicle around them. Sometimes they're in an RV. They'll
Okay.
have an RV that's traveling with them. Sometimes they're just in the back of one of these vans. A lot of these are rental vans that they take the seats out of, and they'll set up the back like with a place to sleep. And they'll shove them in
Okay.
the van for like a couple of REM cycles, and then they stick
Mhm.
them back on the bike and tell them to get pedaling.
Oh wow. That mist on the road is really cool. The pavement must have been kind of hot and it was evaporating or something, or
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So it was worth the wait.
Like if somebody wanted to get into this type of work, like what are the types of skills that they need to have, or what types of things should they work on? Seems like the adaptability is necessary, but just curious.
Definitely adaptability, and I think practicing making good work out of bad conditions,
Oh,
like
that's a good point.
um, and also trying to just sometimes we're in a spot where you're covering this and you get what you get where you get it. So sometimes
Hmm.
you're pulled over in a gas station and there's nothing. You've got to find an angle to make an interesting and compelling shot in a place that you wouldn't have picked.
Okay.
So I have some stuff where I've like laid on the ground with a wide angle and gotten right up on the curb in
Mm.
a town and just shot up so that I have like the the sky and some trees, but I'm cutting out like a shopping center that's across the street.
Yeah. Yeah, so as a photography educator, students will do their projects and they'll be like those situations where it's just not what they wanted. And in this situation, you don't really get a choice. It's like you said, you get what you get.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, because we're covering like
mhm.
an entire race field that can sometimes be spread out over 5 states. We have to get people and then move on. And so sometimes we're going to not see some people for a couple of days. And then, um, so it's important to get something good and usable of
Mhm.
each team, each participant, um,
Mm.
without spending too much time trying to chase
Yeah.
them because then we're missing other things. So
Mhm.
it's very much a adapt on the fly, try to figure out a way to make something interesting. Yeah,
Yeah.
in a spot that might not be that interesting.
About how many participants are in these races? How many teams do you have to cover typically, or individuals?
Uh, Usually about like 30 some solos and 20 to 30 teams.
Okay.
It varies year to year, but and they're typically two media crews. So one will leave the solos and the teams start on different days. So
Mm.
one crew will go out with the solos. I always go out with the teams because I also do portraits of every participant at the check-in in
Okay.
Oceanside. So I have to be there for the teams to check in and get their portraits done, and then I'll follow the teams across. But eventually, the teams catch up to the solos. Everybody sort of merges, usually
Okay.
somewhere around the Midwest. We'll
Okay.
start to catch the slower solos, and then yeah, and we just coordinate coverage with the other media crew.
Okay. And how many days on the road is that typically for you
Right about 10.
per each
Um,
race?
yeah. Well, for the big race,
Okay.
the shorter races, the 500 milers, that's 48 hours and done.
Mhm. So what is that like? Like, how do you I'm just thinking about like your schedule for, like how do you a lot of times when we're trying to do ASMP stuff, sometimes you're on the road and I'm just like curious like how often you're on the road throughout the year.
Uh, let's see.
Like there's a
Pretty
season for
much,
this, right?
yeah, pretty much all of June.
Okay.
Um, there's about a week and a half in March, end of March and April, where they run a Texas Hell Week training camp.
Mm.
So it's not a race. There are two races at the end of it, a 200 and a 500, but it's a week long training camp with happy hours and fun stuff, social things, and then 3 different lengths of rides that are available for everybody every day.
Okay.
So some people who are training for like RAM will come out and do the 100-mile option every single day, and then they'll race the 500 at the end of the week and
Oh,
get like
wow.
a 900-mile weekend.
Yeah, this is an area of photography that I've just never really touched, like this sort of like cross country cycling thing. It's really interesting to hear about.
It's very
Um,
unusual. I mean, it's
yeah, I mean, you're the only person that I know that does it. So I know there's others that do, but personally, so it's cool to get to know a little bit more about it. Are there any things that as you've grown as a photographer, is there anything that like advice that you could give to like up and coming photographers? Something that maybe you wish you'd known then that you know now?
uh one of the I guess it took me a while to like a couple years to really figure it out, but joining a professional organization, and I'm gonna kind of plug ASMP. Yeah, I'm
Do it. Go for
president of the
it.
Colorado chapter, which that's a volunteer position, so it's not like I get any kickbacks or anything from mentioning it. But
Mhm.
um, having that professional organization and the the resources that they provide, not everything from just the network of people that I've met that
Mhm.
I've been able to refer them and they've been able to refer me. Um, as a professional member, I get to find a photographer site on in this ASMP database. I've gotten work off of that that has more than paid for my dues. Um, there's legal resources, contract help, all kinds of good things, and there are a lot of the things that are sometimes confusing and to people who are brand new starting out, like how do I price myself? What is all this in the ins and outs of licensing? I don't understand that. They have resources on all of that, and it's really helpful to learn that stuff because there are so many potential clients out there that just don't get it. They think I'm going to pay you for this one thing and then I own it, and that's that's not how it works.
Yeah.
But if you don't know that, it's hard to educate a client about that. So
Yeah.
learning
Yeah.
that kind of thing.
Yeah. Oh, what do they call that? ASMP Academy, where they have all of that legal
Yeah,
references and information and things
legal
like that.
references, information on licensing and how to price things,
Hmm.
and yeah, it keeps you out of legal trouble
Yeah.
and make sure that you and your client can build good expectations.
Cool. No, I think that's great advice. Disclosure: I'm the secretary for ASMP Colorado, where I serve with Jen and Rick Souders, and Samantha and a whole group of other people, which maybe we'll be able to get them on the show here eventually as well. Um, so one last question I wanted to kind of talk about is you're living in kind of a remote area, and I was just curious, like what sorts of benefits or challenges does that bring to your business as a photographer? I know it's great that you have the connections with Race Across America and other organizations, but like how does the your location impact your business?
It's been interesting. I I came from the Denver area when I started doing the adventure work, and I I got connected there with a lot of cool people, but and I'd always wanted to get out of the suburbs and the city and get away from that. I grew up in like right outside of DC, so it was always just, but I always escaped to nature, and I wanted to be someplace with just beautiful views all the time and really ready access to all the fun stuff that I like to do outside. So when we moved here in 2020, it's pretty rural area. Not the closest major city is Albuquerque, which is 4 hours south, and there's no interstate. They're very small airports, and I wondered how it was going to impact my business. And it turns out that it was a really great move for my
Oh.
business. And part of it has been having to be flexible with the kind of work that I'm doing. And I
Mm-hmm.
know a lot of advice out there is always like, oh, find a niche and like really get very specific about what you do. And I have ended up doing the opposite here because I met some folks. There's a pack raft company in town, Alpaca Rafts, and they manufacture right here in tiny little Memphis, 1,500 people, and like 1,500 people that live here, not that work there.
Mm-hmm.
And I do e-commerce work for them.
Okay.
So sometimes I'm shooting like little uh, little replacement washers for their valves.
Mm.
And yeah, it's not this big, exciting adventure work or following a race or anything, but it's good.
Mm-hmm.
And then I've done some work for short-term rentals because we have a lot of tourism here, so a lot of people have um, accessory dwelling units that they'll rent out, and so I've done a little bit of that and pulled out my old real estate interior architectural and exterior architectural photo skills from school, um, and use that. I've done some work for the Cortez Cultural Center, shooting native dancers, and um, done product work for them and interior and exterior photos for their website. I've done some work for the Chamber of Commerce here. Um, so opening myself up to stuff that wasn't part of the whole niche advice has kept things going. But I think the other thing that's really been valuable about moving here is getting just having ready access to a whole bunch of different landscapes. So
Mm-hmm.
we're kind of in a desert, high desert transition zone. We have a lot of like pinyon and juniper forest, and we're right between kind of that red rock desert environment and then like high alpine.
Mm.
So from where I am, I can be in Monument Valley in 2 hours, which is beautiful red rock desert. I can be in Moab in 2 hours. I can be in Telluride in an hour and a half, like a high alpine, ski town type thing. Um, and then everything in between. So if there's a client that is looking for a variety of landscapes that are adventure related, I have that all right here and I barely have to travel. So it can keep their costs down, um, just by not having to pay for travel.
Mm-hmm.
I can be back in my own bed at night.
One thing that you said that I think it was interesting is you talked about dusting off those old architectural skills from school. Like, as somebody who teaches a lot of different classes about a lot of different types of photography, so there are students that are like, I'm never gonna use this. Why do I have to, straighten out all the verticals and all, like it's like, so it's kind of cool to hear you say that that sort of thing kind of did come back in a way you weren't expecting, maybe.
Oh yeah,
So
definitely. And let me tell you just a word to the folks who are students now. When I was a student 10 years ago, the software was not as good. Not at
true,
all.
true, not at all. Yeah, it's
Like
crazy how much it's changed.
getting back
Yeah,
into that, I was like, oh, it's so much easier and faster to edit these now. So
yeah, yeah.
just tell them that they're lucky they're not working with an older version of Photoshop um,
Hmm.
and
And
blending
a
and
view camera and a.
all of it.
Cool. Well, Jen, this was really great having you on here for the first episode. I don't know if you have any closing thoughts, any last words or images you want to
Um,
look at.
well, I was gonna say if you want to pull up some of the like real
Oh,
quick, the variety of stuff that I've ended up doing
yeah.
out here is for like some of the short-term rentals and real estate, the e-commerce.
Yeah. Yeah, let's do it. Go to the short-term rentals.
Sure, yeah.
Okay.
And just, I mean, we don't have to talk about anything super quick, but like,
Yeah. No, we're not in a hurry. If we can go through whatever you like.
so these are just some of the local spots that are for rent here. Amazing, amazing places that you could come stay if you ever.
Okay. I remember you showed us the one with this tub at an ASMP event, and this is like an outdoor tub for like this, like a yurt or something. Is that what it was?
Yeah, it's this yurt, and that's like
I'd
right
stay
here in my
there.
neighborhood.
Nice.
And I wanted to really like get the steam and stuff, so it was a chilly little
Yeah.
morning, sunrise, running hot water into the copper tub. And
Nice.
that's a
Showing
shipping
the,
container house.
oh, this
This one
is?
is yeah,
Oh,
that some folks locally designed and built themselves, and
that's really cool.
yeah, they did a really great job on it.
Yeah, it looks really kind of modern, industrial.
Yeah, and the couple is really great at design. Just they did the
Oh,
whole
there it
thing
is from
themselves. That
oh, wow. How many containers is that? 2, 3?
I think it might be four,
Is it
but
4? Oh, okay.
like
Wow.
stacked on top of each other, like two on
Yeah.
top, two on the bottom.
Well, that's impressive.
Yeah,
I like that structure that they're using to kind of support the the sides that kind of stick out.
yeah, they did
That's
a
cool.
they did a really great job on it. I'm gonna go back and do some of they've done some exterior landscaping, so I'm gonna go do that this
Mm.
summer when it's green and not muddy and snow covered.
Right. You're
And
doing a
then
nice
this is
job, like showcasing the views outside the windows too.
that was one of the hardest parts.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Yeah, getting this. It's a lot of Photoshop, a lot of layering.
Mm-hmm. Manual HDR.
Yes, yeah,
Yeah.
to make it not look cartoonish, but
Mm-hmm.
not skimp on the
Nice.
reality of the views.
Yeah.
This place was actually built by the same guy that built our house. Ours isn't as like vacation rental-y though, since we're living in it. And then yeah, the e-commerce and product stuff is
Oh, yeah.
it's
So
very
this is the
much
stuff
just
for the
the
rafting company.
yeah, and it's
Okay.
very much just the transparent background and everything, but occasionally I've got to do stuff where it's like these small valve things, but they fit on a product, so we've got to kind of gray
Mm.
out the part that's
Like,
not for sale.
oh, I see. Like this right here. These
Yeah,
things.
it's like an adapter for that pump
Ah.
fits on their raft valves, but you can buy this adapter so that you can use it with like camping mats. So
Oh,
there
I
it is on
see.
the camping mat.
Yeah. Oh, that's interesting. So you're really just photographing that little blue part, the little
Yep.
cap thing. Nice.
But I have all the accessories and stuff that they like do, and sometimes we got to set up a little bit of how to put wet stuff in there or dry stuff in there, different bags. So I'm always pulling out various things. And then they
Mm-hmm.
have a lot of swag on their website that they want. But
I like their logo. It's fun. Looks like a
yeah, they do have a
woodblock
fun
print.
logo.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty neat.
Was there anything else you want to take a look at?
Um, I think we're probably, we've covered the adventure, the bicycling, the kind of I don't want to call it weird, but the stuff that doesn't fit in that genre.
That's
Yeah,
great.
and that's the way you work in a town of 1,500 people.
Well, very cool. Thank you for sharing all this. I think people will find just your path really interesting, and hopefully everybody will get a chance to go visit your website and see more of your work.
All right. Well,
Well,
thanks for having
Jen,
me on.
yeah, thank you. And I'll see you at the next ASMP meeting.
Yep.
All
Very
right.
soon.
All right. So stay tuned for the next episode, and I'll see you guys later. If you enjoyed the show, please like, subscribe, and leave us a comment. It helps us connect with more photography lovers just like you.